Turn your living room into a joyful, hands-free playroom with CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ. Your child sings, moves, and learns right alongside JJ and friends, all on the big screen. It's designed thoughtfully to spark speech, rhythm, and coordination through songs and active play. Try an ad-free, safe, and interactive way to make screen time part of their learning and growth. Parents love how easy it is, voice-controlled and frustration-free. Kids love every moment of singing, laughing, and playing along. It's fun for them, and it's feel-good for you. Available now in the Volley app on your smart TV. Just search Volley in your TV's app store and start your free trial of CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ today. That's CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ, available now in the Volley app on your smart TV. Search Volley and start your free trial today.
Volley.
Welcome to Homeschooling Outside the Box, the podcast that encourages and equips moms to homeschool an outside-the-box child. Hey there, I'm Cindy Renna, and thanks so much for listening. I'm so glad to be back recording this final episode of the series, Get Started Homeschooling. I apologize for the large gaps, but I know most of you listening are also homeschooling mamas and maybe some dads out there as well. And you know that sometimes life just gets super busy and there just hasn't been a lot of free time in my weeks. So I am trying to fit it in where I can and to help encourage some of you out there to get going with your homeschool or to take a look at your existing homeschool and see if there are things that you could maybe switch around or do better. So hopefully this series has been a big encouragement to you. I have loved doing it, and it's made me look at my homeschool and kind of check some boxes as well. So just to recap, we have already covered so much. We are in the home stretch today. This is the last episode. There were 3 other episodes, so if you have not listened to those, you're going to want to go back and do that. We went through a complete checklist, beginning with praying about it, getting on the same page with your spouse, checking state laws, joining homeschool support systems, developing a simple homeschool mission statement, choosing your method, picking your space, creating your routine, deciding what subjects to teach, choosing your curriculum, and today we covered the last 2 topics, organizing your space and how to plan your year, your term, your week, your day. So if you are more of a written word kind of person, I am. I like to have something that I can read in front of me a lot of times, especially things like this where I want to go back through it and maybe check if I've done something or reevaluate at a later date. You can go to my website, cindyrenna.com, and join my mailing list, and you will get a printed copy of everything that I've covered on the last 4 podcasts, or the last 3, and then this 4th podcast as well. So if you want to, go ahead and do that, but today we are going to go ahead and jump in and talk about organizing your space. So you've purchased all of your books and supplies, and you've set up your space. Oh, wait, let me pause there because I gave you a to-do at the end of the last episode, which was to pick some of your curriculum. So hopefully you have some of that. Maybe you've ordered it already, maybe it's in, or you at least have a good idea. So I'm going to do this episode assuming that you know what you're going to teach. Okay, so again, let's say you've got all your books and supplies, you've set up your space or different spaces, and you've thought about your routine. I would like you to do a physical walkthrough of your day and see if it makes sense. Now, this is going to be one of those things that you really won't know until you're right in the middle of it, and you're teaching a lesson and you realize I don't have a single pen in this room, or I don't have the right books I need in this room. But if you could do a walkthrough of your day beforehand, you could at least cut off some of the giant things that you might be missing or might be out of place. So I want you to actually walk to the space where you will be homeschooling. So if that's a certain room in the house, ours is like the front room of our house. It's sort of like a study-ish kind of room. So if you were to walk into there and pretend, okay, I'm going to sit down and we are going to do history and Bible and geography and memory work. Okay? So now sit where you might actually sit, or if you might stand, go stand in that area, and then see what you need. Are the books easy to reach? Are they on a shelf halfway across the room? Or are they something you can just turn and grab? Do you need certain things to write with? Do you need highlighters? Do you need pencils? Is there a way that you can make the space more convenient? And then think about it from your child's perspective or your children's point of view. So where will they be sitting? How will they have their work organized? A big thing to consider is what will they be doing and how much room will it require? So for instance, we have a circular table in this room that I'm talking about, and I have 4 children. So that means if everybody has a folder or a notebook open and they're writing with a pen or a pencil, that can seat just exactly 4 people, really 3 people more comfortably. So I need to keep that in mind depending on what sort of tasks we're going to be doing for whatever curriculum we're going to be teaching. So if it's something like memory work, that really wouldn't matter because they're just reciting things and they could be sitting on a couch. It wouldn't matter where they sat. But if you're doing a map for geography, and you've got to fit colored pencils at the table and, they have to write in different things with a pen, that's going to take up a lot more space. So kind of go through your day with each of your subjects and evaluate if that space is really going to work. Because what you might find is it looked really good on paper, or it looked really good in your head, and it looks all pretty set up, but it's not actually practical for what you need to be doing in that room. Another thing you want to do when you're organizing your space is decide where you're going to keep your paper trail. So where are you going to put your child's supplies and work? How are you going to organize that? Is each child going to have his own shelf? Are you going to use, when we started homeschooling, we used the workbox system. So that was essentially just shelves stacked on top of each other, thin, kind of 12 by 12. I guess they were probably 2 or 3 inches high. So it was enough to fit a few workbooks and pencils, and it was organized by subject. Okay, and that worked for us at the time, but then we sort of switched gears with what type of homeschooling we do. Now we're a lot more Charlotte Mason focused and read a lot more literature together, so we don't need all that space. It really took up a lot of space, and it wasn't something we were using anymore, so we did away with the work boxes, and now each child just has their own shelf or cubby or whatever you want to call it. We've got these great IKEA shelves with the 12 by 12 box shelves, and each child just has their own, and we're able to fit a magazine file, and that holds some of the floppier workbookish type books, and then they can put their other books standing up next to it. So that has really worked for us. So just think about what is going to make sense for your home, with your space, with the furniture you already have set up, and then keep a sticky note posted somewhere. And as you go through your weeks and your days homeschooling, just jot down a note. If you realize, man, I am constantly looking for highlighters. We need more highlighters in this room. Or it would be really nice if we had a globe. I would love to be able to pull out a globe. Or I'd love to pull out a map and let us, write on the map. You can laminate your maps and then draw on them with wet erase markers. That works really well. So just little things like that. And then as you're able to, just make your little purchases and add to your homeschool. All right, so that is about your space. Now we're going to talk about planning your year, your term, your week, and your day. So this can get overwhelming, but if you are a planner and you love this part of it, my caution is that you don't plan so much that you're more interested in the plan than actually doing. And then, of course, if you're not a planner, my caution is not to just kind of roll with things because then you might find out at the end of the year you didn't get exactly where you were hoping to get. So try to find a little bit of a balance. A good planner can be helpful with this, but you can also do it yourself. So if you're not wanting to follow a planner, or if you can't really find a planner that works for you, that's always my issue, is I end up finding a planner that I maybe like 2 or 3 things about it, but it's missing these other things. So I usually end up just doing our own. Spoiler alert, I've been working on a planner for about 2 years, maybe 3. I keep revamping it each year because I want to make sure it's really smooth before I put it in my shop. But maybe leave me a message if that's something you'd be anxious for, and that might motivate me to get it done sooner. But that is in the works, a planner, based on pretty much everything we've been talking about in this series. So anyway, let's talk about your year first, because that is you want to start big picture and then break that down into smaller bites. So go over your whole year and decide what subjects you're going to teach as a group. So when we did the last episode, we talked about all the different subjects, especially if you're a Charlotte Mason homeschooler. There are lots and lots of options for subjects. It has worked best in our homeschool to break that into 2 categories, one being group work and one being individual work. So if you need to, go back and listen to episode number 3, I think it's like episode 31, but it's the 3rd one in this series. So you can go back and listen to that for a list of subjects. But bottom line is you want to decide what you are teaching as a group, and then decide what subjects each child needs. Okay? So then from there, you want to break it up into your term. So this is another Charlotte Mason friendly thing. If you want to do semesters instead, this would work kind of the same way, but I'm going to talk about terms. So Charlotte Mason did 12-week terms. So she did 3 of them. We homeschool year round, and we do that so I have the freedom to take off as many days as I want throughout the year and not be worried about falling behind. We also do that to keep our brains sharp, and a routine is really good for us. So there's lots of reasons we do it, but that gives us 4 terms instead of 3. So I find it simplest to do it by season. Now I don't mean the actual calendar season, like where it says first day of spring or first day of fall. I do this very loosely by month, whole month. So for us, our first term or fall term is September, October, November. Our winter term, or term 2, would be December, January, February. Spring term, or term 3, which we just kicked off this week, is March, April, May. And then finally a summer term, or term 4. So, of course, that's June, July, and August. So the great thing about doing it in terms is it gives you a short chunk of time to work with, so 12 weeks. You always get that last week off after break if you want it. And that gives you time to change subjects. You can swap, composers. You can start a new composer. We always start new picture studies. And it gives you a chance to really evaluate how that last term went. We always do exams at the end of each term. And then it's almost like a miniature year. We kind of have a fresh start. On the other hand, subjects like math or teaching a child how to read or doing cursive handwriting, those tend to just go on, and we just sort of finish whenever we finish. Those are not dependent on term. We might finish a book in the middle of the year and start a new book a couple weeks later, or it might take us a lot longer than a year to finish something that a child is working on that's kind of a challenge for him. So a lot of the individual work is not dependent on term. It just goes on, dependent on the child's skill. Okay, so now we want to look at your week. So what you want to do at this point, maybe for your year in the term, you sort of made a list and kind of put a mark next to what you're going to teach. But for your week, you want to actually either print out a weekly calendar. I know there's tons of templates out there. You can get one in different word processing programs, or you can just draw a sketch of 5 days on a calendar, or maybe you're going to school 6 days, whatever it is that you're going to do. And you want to write in what you already have going on. Okay, so if you already have existing therapy appointments, go ahead and write those in. If you work part-time, go ahead and write in your work hours. And the idea is for you to see actually what time you have to work with for your homeschool. Okay, so now I want you to write in things that you would like to do. So do you have younger children that you would love to get them to the library once a week for a regular story time? A lot of libraries do like a little story time in the morning, and that we did that for years and years and really, really enjoyed that. And even when the boys got too old for it, our daughter would go, and the boys that would be their time to look for books and get things. So that really worked for us. So for many years, Tuesday morning, 10:30 was our library time. So we did that always. And then usually we would run an errand after. So I would know to kind of cross off from 10 to lunch. I knew that no school at home was going to be getting done at that point. So I knew I would have to do it before we left, or I'd have to do it after lunch. Is there a social group that you've joined where maybe their activities are every Friday morning? Okay, or maybe they have a gym class every Wednesday afternoon, whatever it is. So go ahead, fill that in as well. Okay, and now kind of look at what you have, and before you do anything else, decide if that's going to be enough. You know, do you have older children, and maybe a weekly library trip is not the best way to spend a Tuesday morning? We just had to make that decision where now the library is just kind of an as we need to go type of thing instead of a standing appointment. So that freed up a few hours on a morning where typically we were not getting much school done. Now we need that time now that the kids are older. So when you have it blocked off the way you want it, and you can see visually, okay, we're not going to be gone too much. We're actually going to be home to do school for the amount of time that I think is good for our family. Then you want to start looking at your day. Okay, so go back to that exercise I had you do. I think it was the second one of this series where I had you look at the chunks of your day where you think homeschool might fit for your family. And we're going to really fine tune that now. So consider, what will you teach during morning time? Is it going to work for your family, for everybody to be around the breakfast table for a certain amount of time and for you to use that as a teaching time? If it is, and if group work will work at that time, what specific subjects are you going to teach? Some great subjects to teach that we've always done sort of in the morning or at breakfast have been Bible, habits, hymn study, memory work is a good one, music study, picture study, poetry. You could do lower grade science. These are all things that will generally work while somebody's eating. So you're not going to have them do geography and have to draw maps while they're eating, pancakes and there's syrup all over your map now. And you're not going to want to do history or anything too intense where you're requiring them to write back or tell back. Same with nature study. Obviously, you're going to want to be out of the house for that. So that's not a really good sit-down one. Literature, we've always tagged that at lunchtime because we don't do any sort of narration back. I don't require them to tell back anything. They don't have to write anything. So that is simply feasting on great literature. So that's always worked really good for lunch because we tend to have our day, all of our core subjects of our day are done by lunch. So that's a great transition for us where we're sort of ending on this happy note, and then everybody goes their separate ways in the afternoon to work on different things. So that's a great thing for morning. Another option is, are you going to try to fit all of your group work in at one time, or are you going to split it up? So for us, what's always worked really well is, like I said, to do some of that in the morning at the breakfast table, and then we break and everybody does teeth, face, hair, deodorant zones, and we go our separate ways for about 45 minutes and we come back together. And then that's when we do Bible and history and geography, some of the subjects that take a little more effort, a little more than telling back. We might be writing something. Like just this morning, we were copying down Noah's family tree. So, that's not something we're really going to do at the breakfast table. Also, a lot with geography. You don't want to be pulling out maps or looking at the globe or things like that unless you've got the space to do it. So it's always worked well for us to kind of gather back together mid-morning and to get that done. And then at that point, all of our group work, besides our read-alouds, which again, that's not even schoolish for us. That's just reading great stories together. We're done. So at that point, then all anybody has to do is their individual work. We do that in birth order. So I kind of knock out the youngest first and spend about 30 minutes per child. Once they get older, it takes about 40 minutes to do. I also wrap our therapy into that time. So it's just really going to depend on your children and what they need from you, how many subjects they can do on their own versus how many they need you at their elbow or actually teaching that subject. Of course, things like spelling, you're going to have to read the spelling words for them, or else it's kind of besides the point to have them read their own spelling words. So there's definitely going to be subjects that you have to teach for them, especially in the younger years. All that, hopefully, or most of that, will be done by lunch. So my oldest are in 7th grade, and we are still able to do our super academic subjects. All of that is done by lunch. So the afternoons are free for outings or activities or some of their subjects that are more enrichment or more, a skill that they're wanting to learn. So if it's an art book that they're, a drawing book maybe that they're doing, or if they're learning watercolor or something like that, those are things that can happen in the afternoon. Of course, if they play a sport or if they're in a play, those are going to be things that happen in the afternoon. So when I say that we're done by lunch, I'm talking about kind of your basic school subjects, math, reading, science, those types of subjects. And that gives a lot of free time to your day. And if you're feeding them on these great ideas, they're going to have lots of time to play and explore those ideas, to be outside, to pursue their own interests and hobbies. And that's really a great gift for your children. So you want to be very intentional about how you plan your day and make sure you're leaving time for that. You don't want school to have to stretch out all day. And that's one of the joys of homeschooling, is that you get to make it work around your family life. So you still want to be in a position where you're wrapped up by a certain time so you can have a breather and transition to whatever it is you do in the evenings, making dinner, or if you have a night job or whatever it is. So then you know that everybody got, for the most part, what they needed during the day in terms of your school day. Well, that wraps it up for the series on getting started homeschooling. I hope that this has given you some direction, some encouragement. I hope it sort of recharged you if you're already homeschooling, but you feel like you're floundering a bit, or you seem like, we can't really ever get it together. We never seem to be in a good routine. I would just encourage you to keep working at it, keep going through these steps, reevaluate every year, every term, and see what works for your family. Because as you go through different seasons and your toddlers turn to preschoolers, and then all of a sudden you have high schoolers, it's going to keep changing. So just stick with what works for your family. Trust that. Follow the steps. And I just know it's going to create a homeschool that you will love and that will nurture your family. Thanks so much for listening to Homeschooling Outside the Box. If you are loving the show, please head over to iTunes and leave a review. This is a great way to help other moms just like you find encouragement in their homeschool with their outside-the-box child as well. For more encouragement, be sure to head to cindyrenna.com and you can check out some great blog posts as well as a shop that will help equip you on your homeschooling journey.